the night before, I'd actually seen him and almost had a shot, but I didn't take it because he was kind of behind a bush, and then I lost my opportunity. So that night, when I saw him again, he was behind a bush, but I was like, I'm just going to take the shot anyway. So I shot, and the arrow shot through the bush and stuck him, like deflected, and stuck him in the leg and pinned him to the ground. But I didn't really have any time to think, but all I had was my axe there. I ran and grabbed my axe and ran over there, and he was like growling and flipping around on the arrow and like snarling at me.
Hey everyone, this is Ninorta. You might have remembered an article that was shared all over Facebook a couple of weeks ago about a young man who won the show Alone in the Arctic on the History Channel, and he made reference to the resilience of his Assyrian ancestors and what they endured during genocide. Well, I had the pleasure of speaking with the winner himself, Jonas. I read the article and learned that he was living in Lynchburg, Virginia. I knew I had to arrange a meeting because I was working and living in Washington, D.C. at the time, and Lynchburg is about a 4-hour drive to D.C. So I rented a car, put on some Assyrian podcasts, and met Jordan at his beautiful home. I was welcomed by his family and the chickens from their backyard that were trying to get into the house to join us for the interview. Jordan actually grew up on a farm in Idaho where his mother's family had been living for years, and his father's family ended up after leaving Chicago. Jordan spent most of his 20s living a nomadic life with the Evenki in Siberia, where he was herding reindeer. That's where he learned his skills of hunting, trapping, fishing, and his family struggles allowed him to survive 77 days in the Arctic. In this episode, you'll hear how Jordan killed a moose, battled a wolverine, survived, and became the winner of the show, which is pretty amazing. I mean, I can't even survive one day without technology or people, let alone 77 days. We also get to hear about Jordan's family struggles of genocide and persecution and how that helped him put his own challenges into perspective. Support for this week's episode of the Assyrian Podcast is brought to you by Tony Kalogerakos and the injury lawyers of Illinois and New York. If you know anyone that's been in a serious accident, please reach out to Tony Kalogerakos. Tony has been recognized as a top 40 lawyer and a rising star by Super Lawyers publication and has obtained multiple multi-million-dollar awards. Tony can be reached at injuryrights.com or at 847-982-9516. This episode is also sponsored by John Oshana. Whether you're thinking about buying or selling real estate in Arizona or California, put John's proven track record to work. John's focus is residential, multi-units, and commercial properties. Check John out on Facebook at John Oshana Realtor or Instagram at john.oshana. Contact him today at 209-968-9519. I won't keep you waiting, so here's Jonas. Thank you so much for being with us on the Assyrian Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you. So you're the winner of the Alone Show. You survived 77 days in the Arctic. Tell us about what the show is about. What are the rules? What did you do?
Yeah, so it's a kind of a cool show where they, called Alone, and they basically get 10 people and drop them off alone by themselves in the wilderness with a video camera, so you self-document the whole time, and it's basically the last person to give up wins out of those 10 people. And you get 10 basic items to go with you, so you get simple things. It's not like you get a gun or anything. You get like an axe and a knife and a fishing hooks, 10 items, and basically just see who can last the longest.
See who can survive.
Yeah.
What were the 10 items that you brought along?
I brought, let me think if I can rattle them all off. I brought an axe and a saw and a paracord and a multi-tool and a sleeping bag and a frying pan, fishing hooks, bow and arrow, ferro rod for starting fires, and something else. There's something else in there. Oh, trapping wire.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the
Got it.
So they drop you off, and it's with those 10 items and a couple video cameras, and fly away in a helicopter, and there you are.
There you are alone.
Yeah.
So they did come and check up on you.
Yeah, they occasionally.
How often would they come up?
It varied. Somewhere from like every 10 days to a couple of weeks or whatever. They'd come and give you new camera batteries and check your health status and all that. Because if you do get too, even if you don't tap, if you get too skinny or your health starts to fall, they'll pull you out.
Yeah, there was I think 1 or 2 contestants that they didn't let them continue on because their health was deteriorating.
Right.
At a certain point.
Yeah,
so they're like, you have to leave the show.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to do this show?
A buddy told me about the show, and I watched it, and I thought, oh, that's a cool show. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I found it interesting. So I watched the first couple seasons, and then I'd lived in Siberia with the native nomads, like herding reindeer up in the north. So I just figured, you know what, I could do that. And so I sent him a link to my videos on YouTube of living with the natives. And then I actually didn't hear back from the show for a couple years. I forgot about it, and I was up working in Washington, D.C., and they called me out of the blue and were like, hey, we want you on season 6. And so I was like, oh, man, crazy, I guess. And I just said, okay, sure, as long as the doors keep opening, and they did. And so
nice.
Couldn't say no.
So what challenges did you face when you were in the Arctic alone?
In the Arctic alone, the biggest first challenge is, for me, I'm like a tall, thin guy, so I was just stressed about getting food and trying not to starve out of there. Mm-hmm. Of course, I wasn't actually too worried about the cold because I've been in the cold, and I knew I wasn't going to tap because I was cold. I just figured I just got to get food, and I have to get more food than everybody else because I have a high metabolism. So that was initially my biggest challenge, and throughout the whole show, that kind of was. Even after I got a moose and after I had like kind of taken care of the food thing, it still was one of the main stressors. Like someday in the future, I'm gonna starve out of here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It never lets up.
I think food is always on everybody's mind,
totally.
Even when we are not alone in the Arctic.
Yeah. Mine too.
So tell us about the moose story.
Well, that was crazy. It was about day 20, and I'd been getting a lot of rabbits and living off of just rabbits. I'd gotten something like 27 rabbits by day 20. So I had a lot of rabbit, but I was quickly finding out that they're so lean that it doesn't really even stave off weight loss just eating just protein like that. So I would eat the brain and the organs, and then the meat I didn't even really want to eat because it was just all that protein you can't digest. And then, well, earlier on I'd heard a moose outside, and I didn't want to wake up and like scare it off because I knew it would come back maybe. And so it was at night, and so I went out and set up I went the next day and tracked it and set up a bunch of like tin cans so that if it walked by a trail, it would hit the tin cans, make noise, and I could know it was there. Sure enough, one morning I heard one coming by like huffing and puffing and going along, and and then I heard the cans go clink, and I was like, oh man, I jumped out of bed and ran over there. And it had got scared by the cans and ran actually towards me because it didn't know I was there. But it was in a big open flat, like a mud flat, so I couldn't get any closer than I was because that's out in the open. So I took a shot and I missed, and the moose ran off. But it was a huge moose, and I was like, man, that was just awesome to see. But I'm gonna go, like track it and see where it goes. Then I noticed it kind of walked between these two cliffs, and I thought, it's really hard to get close to a moose out in the woods, but I thought if I built a fence between those two cliffs and funneled all the moose that ever happened to walk by into that one spot, I would be more likely to get them. And so I did that, put up more cans, and then one day I was out checking rabbit snares and I heard the cans, and I was like, no way. I ran down to the bush at the end of my little funnel fence that I built, and sure enough, he came walking up, and I shot him, and then that began about the most intense day of my life. Just like
you shot him with an arrow,
a bow and arrow, just an old-fashioned one, and then And then, like when you shoot something like that, you can't run after it right away. You have to let it run off and calm down and lay down, hopefully bleed out. But I had to wait a while. I was like the longest hour of my life, just like waiting for time to pass. Like, oh man. And then,
am I gonna have you for dinner?
yeah,
or what's happening?
are you gonna get away? You just don't know. And so then when I was like, okay, enough time. Maybe an hour had passed, and so then I started tracking it, and found a blood trail. Was following it, and then the blood trail dried up, and then I couldn't find any sign of them. So then you're excited, and then you're like, oh no, it's gonna get away. I can't find it, and then just up and down, and then I finally, just walking along the shore, came across it. I saw it up in front of me, and I was like, oh, no way. And then got really excited, and then like laid down because I was still too far to even try to shoot it again or anything. And I just laid down, and it was like a bull moose, and it's like I could either try to sneak up and finish it off, but in that case it's either gonna jump up and run away and I'll never find it, or it might attack me. And it would be really hard to like actually put a shot on it where I needed to, and it was lying down. So I just had to sit there and wait, and it was super long few hours, but it finally bled out and died, and I went over there and I couldn't believe it. I was super excited. But man, what an up and down day. That felt like once I got that, it was like a huge burden off my back, because you just feel like, oh, you're gonna starve no matter how many rabbits I'd got. But then that kind of relieved the burden, at least for a little while.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was crazy.
So with the cans, I know that wasn't one of the things that you brought,
right.
but the one of the show rules that you're allowed to, whatever you find, you can use.
So I was like, a lot of times in the past, people have tried, a lot of people have won using like a really passive strategy where you just sit there and kind of have the slowest metabolism and the most extra weight and last the longest. But I knew that wasn't going to work for me, so I was really active and running way up and down the shore, hunting rabbits and learning my land. And in doing that, you'll find probably from the 70s or before, just old fire circles from way back and if you find a fire circle, you like look in the bushes and find an old rusty can. Some fishers probably stopped and ate food and threw a can in the woods. And so I found a bunch of those doing that. Yeah.
Nice. So that kind of helped you with
Definitely,
that.
Yeah.
Cool. So you skinned the moose right then and there, and then had to chug everything back to your camp.
Yeah, skinning the moose was a lot of work, but it was, of course, the kind of work I wanted to do. So I didn't complain about
you asked
that
for
at all.
it.
Yeah.
You wanted a moose.
Took me, I think, the moose finally died around 1 o'clock, and I think I like gutted it and skinned it and hauled it all back to camp. It was like 10 or 11 o'clock. So it took all day, but it was pretty exciting anyway.
Nice. And then there was a part in the show where you were like eating the moose, and then you're
so that was a nerve-wracking time. Is after I got the moose, we had a weight check, and it was like, say 10 days after I got the moose, and they checked my weight, and I had lost a lot of weight from even when I got the moose. So I got like, oh no, like why am I still losing weight? This is crazy. And then I got really nervous about that. In the long run, come to find out, the next weight check I put on a bunch of, a whole bunch of pounds. So I was actually able to figure that out. I just needed to eat more fat and find the right balance and all that. And I did, and was able to solve that, but it definitely worried me for a week there that oh no, am I going to starve with a huge moose? What in the world?
That's never been done before.
Yeah.
So tell me about the Babylon teeth stick that you...
Well, obviously chew sticks, are an ancient method for cleaning your teeth and stuff. The Babylonians used them. We still do today. Just kidding. But I was actually what I was using that tooth for was because I was eating all that meat, and it was getting stuck in my teeth and making my jaw really sore. And so I would just put it there and chew against the stick, and it would really help. I thought that was funny. They put on the show.
That was pretty funny. You're here, call on this number below for your toothstick.
They're for sale if you're interested.
So after the moose, you faced some more challenges because you had somebody else lurking around for your food.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting maybe a bear would come or something would come, and so I was prepared for those, but I actually wasn't prepared for a wolverine. And one night, wolverine showed up, and they're just much more like wily and able to climb things than a bear would be, and quieter. So he like was able to climb up, steal a bunch of the fat that I'd stored up, and ran off with it. And I was just, oh no, I lost weeks of the fat there, so I was pretty upset about that. But then he was also just much more stubborn of an animal than you would think. He would come right in the middle of the day and steal food, and like he was just always getting on a schedule where he would just come and take stuff and leave.
Wow.
And I was like, oh man, it's definitely gonna go down between us. And so I did the same thing.
Jordan versus the Wolverine.
We couldn't coexist very well, but I knew he was gonna come back, so I set up the same cans and stuff around. And then one night I was out scraping the moose hide, and I heard the cans clank, and I was like, oh. I ran and grabbed my bow and went out, and sure enough, he came scurrying along. And the night before, I'd actually seen him and almost had a shot, but I didn't take it because he was kind of behind a bush, and then I lost my opportunity. So that night, when I saw him again, he was behind a bush, but I was like, I'm just going to take the shot anyway. So I shot, and the arrow shot through the bush and stuck him, like deflected, and stuck him in the leg and pinned him to the ground. But I didn't really have any time to think, but all I had was my axe there. I ran and grabbed my axe and ran over there, and he was like growling and flipping around on the arrow and like snarling at me, and they're very ferocious animals. I actually heard that the one killed a polar bear in the zoo not long ago.
Oh my God.
So when I ran up to it, I was like, oh, this is intense. Hope the arrow holds, but I didn't think a lot. I just ran up, swung.
With your axe.
With my axe, and just kept swinging and and I was like, pretty soon enough it was dead, and I was like, oh my goodness, that was really intense. Of course, it was all in the moment, and I didn't think about it a lot beforehand, but afterwards I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Usually you run the other direction.
Yeah,
you run the opposite way. You went to the Wolverine.
Clear out there that it was either me or him.
Well, you were pretty persistent. You were making sure that you did not want your fat taken.
Right.
Or your moose taken.
Exactly.
So you killed the Wolverine.
Then I killed the Wolverine, and then
you ate the Wolverine.
Ate them. Yeah. They taste a little bit like a skunk. They're not that good.
Okay. How did the moose taste like?
Oh, it was so good. I never even missed salt or anything. Just
every
bite of it I ate, I was just like, delicious. It was great. And
cool.
then, and then I thought I was pretty set for a while, and I built like a food storage platform and put all my food up there, and then I started fishing and started getting fishing down, caught a bunch of those, but then another wolverine came back, which I wasn't expecting, and we were only allowed to kill one. So then I just had to build defenses and hunker down and try to like ward it off every time it showed up.
Yeah.
So that was
So in the show it was pretty cool because like you originally built like a little hanging thing where you hung your meat, and then that was being stolen by the Wolverine. And then when you found out about the Wolverine, you built this higher thing. How high was that?
11 or 12 feet high.
Yeah. And then you built yourself a ladder. And then you kind of carved out the tree trunk.
Yeah,
right?
so I just peeled all the bark off so that it makes it a little harder to climb for animals.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things on the show that made the viewers go like, huh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
So like regular us, we don't know these things. How did you know about these things?
Well, it's a combination of both. When you're out there and like in the zone, kind of your creative juices really start flowing, and it's like a lot of just ingenuity on the spot, combined with the time I spent in Siberia, where there was just living with natives and stuff. It was the first time I went to live with the natives. They taught me how to build one of those raised platforms, and I built one of those, and they liked what I did. So then every time I would visit, they'd be like, "Hey, build another, build another platform." So I'd built a few of them, and then and a lot of the little tricks like that. Even the funnel fence was something that the Evenki, I hadn't seen him build, but I heard him talk about like people back in the day used to build those before they had guns or whatever. And so some of it was just, a mix of both just ingenuity. I feel like when you're out there and you're really relying on yourself and you don't have the distractions of the modern world and stuff, like it really does, your creative juices start flowing and they're really applied towards your survival, which is probably where, creativity kind of came from. Like everybody was applying their brains to try to solve the puzzle of how to stay alive.
Exactly. Yeah, I think nowadays we're very reliant on our phones or Google.
Right. Your brain kind of can go to sleep a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of revived your brain.
It's something I really like about, and a lot of people might not get to experience it, but just about living a very like almost hunter-gatherer lifestyle. It's where you're like, you really feel like you're made for it when you're out there. I would always joke, like, if I caught a fish out there, I would be more excited about that than if I bought a Lamborghini, in the modern world. It's just like, you're just so wired for it. It's just, and that happens every few days,
you were like psyched when you caught a fish.
Totally. Like,
you were like, oh my God, yes!
I know, I never get that excited in real life, but out there, it's just like you're clapping because you're so happy.
By yourself alone. On camera.
Totally.
You're recording yourself.
So it's pretty neat. Yeah, you could really, it's a cool way of life.
So, being alone in the Arctic, tell us what a typical day would look like, because I can only imagine you can only do so much.
Yeah, they vary, obviously, but I would get into fairly decent routines. After the moose, before the moose, it was just a lot of walking and putting up rabbit snares.
What's a rabbit snare for those that don't know?
It's just a loop of metal, or like a little loop of wire that when a rabbit runs by, you like try to identify their trails, and when they run by, they'll get caught in it, and you can catch them. But you need to set out a lot of those to keep you fed. So I was trying to put out 100-something of those, and then after I got the moose, my routine got pretty solidified. Where in the morning, I would wake up, dry out my socks and clothes, because you kind of would, just the condensation from the night would make your socks wet. So I'd dry those, put hot rocks in them and steam them off. And then then I would go out or eat some breakfast, eat some moose, and then go fishing, fish all morning until afternoon. And then I would come back and usually eat fish soup for lunch. And then the second half of the day, I would work on whatever project was around. So like making a fishing net or making snow skis or whatever it was, getting some firewood. And then evening would come and I would dry all my socks and stuff out, cook dinner, and go to sleep.
Yeah.
And it was kind of just kept that routine going.
Nice.
Collect berries. Up in the north, it's just a carpet of berries on the whole ground in the fall. So it's just a beautiful time of year and place. It's like tons of berries. It's like paradise. But then it ends and it gets cold.
Then it gets cold. How cold was it? What was the temperature?
We didn't have a thermostat, and they didn't tell us because, they kept it pretty impersonal at all the interactions. And so, but it might have got down to -20 or something like that, I would guess, Celsius. So it got pretty cold, especially when you're just out there in the elements. And day in and day out. That's the problem is like if you were just there once and you could come home and dry all your stuff completely and, then it'd be all right. But out there, it's pretty hard to, But I didn't suffer too much from the cold. I was planning on it going way into winter when it was going to be like -40 or maybe 50.
So what time of year was this?
It was roughly from September through November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. What would you think about? Like, you're out there alone.
Oh, it was a lot. I thought about a lot. I mean, it is cool to spend. And anybody could go out in the woods or somewhere and just spend like enough time, like a week or so, without any phones or anything. And it's amazing how deep you delve into your thoughts. Like not only over a week, but even if you extend that longer, like that would be. You think about people that you've long forgot about. Everyone I've ever met, I felt like I thought about, and then you think about. Your beliefs and what your priorities are in life, and you have a lot of time for deep thought in between the time where you're just like applying like skills to try to stay alive, so between the creativity and the depth of thought you sometimes reach, That's pretty neat. I think people should try it. You don't have to like try to hunt. Just
Yeah.
take a bunch of food and go live up in the woods.
Go alone for a little bit
yeah.
and just clear your mind.
Yeah, it really is. And you'll think of things like, oh, I should call that person. I didn't like. Maybe I didn't treat them right, and you might have forgot about it. But now when you're out there alone, you're like, oh yeah, I didn't really do that right. I should call that person. And, or things like that. That's pretty cool. I think it's definitely a worthwhile experience.
Yeah. Some of the contestants kind of broke down just because of, being alone and being away from the family. And that's when they tapped out and said, I'm out of here. I can't do this anymore. Did you ever get to that point?
No, not at all, actually. I thought there were a few things at play. One is I completely expected the show to go much longer. Like, so I hadn't even, to myself, I thought at day 90 we get started, basically. So I was doing everything I was to try to get to day 90 to try to then push as long as I could.
Wow.
And so I thought if I could make it 120 days, I might win or something. So I was completely caught off guard when I won, but also for that reason, I hadn't yet. I think it was a combination. Also that, and I spent a lot of time in Siberia, so I'd like leave my family, but that's for like a year, and so just more of a perspective. And then I would come back after a year and realize that, hey, all my family's still here. They still love me. We're all, we're all
but
in this together.
You had like a way of communicating with them when you were in Siberia, right?
Yeah, at times, but actually not super effectively, because I was with the natives in the woods, so there'd definitely be several month stretches where I couldn't even send an email or anything.
Yeah.
But that was before I had little kids and stuff. So that was the extra kink. I also now think that if I would have been able to live completely in the present, that I would have never had any real struggles at all, because all my real stressors were for the future. Like, oh, I'm going to run out of food someday. Oh, I'm going to miss 6 months of my kid's life. Oh, I'm going to, miss Christmas. Those were the things that I thought about.
Yeah.
But they actually didn't come to. And then the other thing was, related to like the Assyrian side of things. It's just like I know my family history well, and it's just like, how could you complain about a little, short stint away from your family when you're actually with, and I'm just sort of hungry, but what our ancestors went through is way more. And I thought about that a lot, and they turned out into such beautiful, wonderful, nice people, and went through so much suffering. It's when you put it into that perspective, just being on a show up in the Arctic isn't too bad.
Yeah, you did mention that, and this is a good transition into that. So, so tell us about your family history, because like you said, your family has gone through a lot, and most Assyrian families have.
They were Assyrians. My grandma and grandpa both were from northern Iran, so grandma was born in Urmia, and grandpa was born in Khosrova, a little village. And then of course during the genocide, my grandpa, his dad was in a wheelchair, and they were like in a village, and the Turks were coming in and burning the whole place down, and my great grandfather like stuffed all the money and stuff he could into a money belt and told grandpa to just run. Grandpa was 17 at the time. Told him just to run and don't turn around, and grandpa ran, and of course turned around to see the building burning with his dad in there and everything, and his sister. Nobody knows what happened to her, and so grandpa just ran away, and he was at that point on his own. Completely went to a refugee camp and was taken in by Jesuits. And then grandma her dad was taken off to be shot, and her and her 7 siblings and mom were like driven off into the desert, and all but one of her siblings died in the desert. And then the Shushan, the last of her sisters, died not long after that, and her mom never recovered either. And so she basically became a orphan in that situation too, and had to watch all of her family members die of exposure and all that. And so then she got to a British army camp, and they took her in, and she was saved. They eventually met with grandpa and got married in Baghdad and stuff. And then my turns out her dad actually lived through the firing squad. He was tied up with a bunch of other people, and they were all to be shot, and he was just, of course, praying like, oh, please save me from this, and then give me some food and clothes. And they all shot, and they usually would come up and bayonet everybody or whatever, but but there was some kind of a raid siren, and all the Turks ran off, and he was able to untie himself. He hadn't been hit, and he got up and actually found some clothes and a loaf of bread, and was able to escape. And yeah, so kind of crazy. They actually didn't. Of course, his daughter, my grandma, thought he was dead for years and years and years, and they finally met at some point later. I think in Chicago, if I know. Yeah. Wow. Anyway, crazy.
Wow. So that kind of kept you going and thinking don't give up. This is nothing.
Right. Yeah. It definitely puts perspective on any suffering you feel like you might be going through.
Yeah, of course.
Just the depth of character they had. It helps you even when you're up there. Think about your priorities and thinking about maintaining a level head and stuff, because it's grandma and grandpa both grew up to be really joyful and good people who didn't hold hate and animosity for their people that had done them wrong. They just grew and raised their own good families and everything. So
yeah,
that was pretty. Yeah, it keeps it all in perspective.
Yeah, of course. You mentioned you were living in Siberia. Tell us what you were doing there.
I went over to help the missionary guy when I was 21 build orphanages and stuff. And then so I spent a good amount of time with him, but I also wanted to live with Russians so I could learn the language. And he sent me to a village.
Do you speak Russian? Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I learned it over there. It's a difficult language to learn, but I really like it. But they sent me to a neighboring village, and I lived with a family. And that guy that I lived with and his family, the guy had been in prison with a native reindeer herder, and they had found God in prison together, so they were really close. And he was always like, oh, you got to meet my native buddy in the north. And eventually, one of those years, that guy invited me up north to live with him, and he was an Evenki guy and was a fur trapper, but all his cousins were still native nomadic people who traveled, live in teepees. And, he took me out to them and dropped me off, and they took me in like a member of the family immediately. It was really good. So it was a way of life I didn't even know people still lived, being that nomadic and living in teepees and stuff, and I really liked it, and I kept going back. And now I try to think about ways that would be cool to help them keep their traditions alive, because I could see how healthy it was for the people who still were connected to reindeer herding and nomadic way of life. They were what you would call happy people, especially when they live in the forest. But when they were in the village and gave up on that, it was just terrible, just alcoholism and all that kind of stuff. So you could see how their traditions and stuff are important to keep, and having grown an appreciation for them, maybe would like to be involved in helping them keep them going for future generations.
Yeah. So is that where you learned hunting and?
Yeah, that's where I got the most applicable skills for the show. I had grown up camping and hiking and loving the outdoors and stuff, but that was where I lived with people who really practically applied skills to survive in the woods.
Yeah. How did you feel when you found out that you won the show?
Oh man, I was shocked. Like I said, I barely let myself think I was doing well, even though I had gotten a moose and a ton of fish and food and all this. When I step back now, I was doing really well, but when I was there, I was just telling myself you don't have enough, you're not doing good enough. And then the last day I was there, I didn't know it was the last day, but I caught this huge fish, and it was in a net that I'd made, and I was really excited, and I thought, that was the first time I allowed myself to think, you know what, Jordan, you're doing pretty well. It's 77 days in, you got a lot of food, you're you're actually doing pretty well, and it kind of shifted my perspective. And I was all actually like, this is great. I'm having a lot of fun, you know, and I think I can be here as long as I need to be. And I started like counting it out. If I can be here another 2 months, I'll probably win. And so then the people were coming to do a med check, and I was like, man, I got to convince them that I'm fine, you know, like.
Yeah, because you thought you were losing weight because you weren't having enough, you weren't eating enough fat.
I didn't know what my weight was, and so I felt great, but I was concerned they didn't think I did. And so I, when they showed up, I was trying to convince them that I was fine, and then my wife snuck up behind me, and because they bring her also in the helicopter, and then I turned around and I just couldn't believe it. I was totally shocked. It was so awesome. Though the whole time you're there, you're thinking about, oh, it'd be so cool if Janet Lee could come up here and I could show her the you know, all this stuff.
What you've created.
Right. It's a lot different than just telling her, you know, like to actually be able to see it. And I'd saved like a piece of the moose heart that I thought was really good, and I'd saved it for her. Of course, when she got there, it was all dried and shriveled. I was like, oh, never mind. But when it was fresh, it was delicious.
It was the thought that counts, I think, with that
one. Totally. I don't think she wanted it. But no, it was such a blast. It was really fun, and unimaginable. Couldn't believe it. All that time I went to, I always would save money here, work, save a little money, go to Russia and spend it all. And I always thought, I should be doing something for like a career or something. You know, like you just think.
Yeah.
It felt like a big sacrifice at the time when I was in my 20s. And then to have that all kind of come around and full circle in that way is crazy. Answer your prayer. And pretty awesome. Amazing how that works. But
it does, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you plan on doing with the money?
I don't know. I find myself just wanting to do the same thing I've always done and just hang out. And I don't know yet. Obviously, it'd be cool to. I mean, what I do now already is renovate houses, and then, so maybe I'll renovate. And I'm working on renovating one right now, so that there's space for our kid that's on the way. We have 3 kids now, so doing that, and then I don't know. We have to see. Hopefully, I can invest it wisely and use it well. We'll just see how it goes. But
well,
hopefully it'll help buy a little more time with the family so they can.
Yeah, and I think you said that on the show that that's your main priority. So not having to, work a 9 to 5 and clock in and clock out. So family is important to you. So now you have
so if I can help use that to structure life in that way, that's one of those priorities you think about when you're out there.
Awesome. Our final question that we ask all of our guests on the show. We have listeners all over the world. What's one thing that you want to share with them, that you want to tell them?
That's a good question. You can take it on any level. I mean, I actually feel like it's really, because of the way our family history went down and everything, I was, they immigrated then to France, but both of them were orphans. So then they immigrated to the States, and I just didn't really have any connection to like my Assyrian, I don't have any surviving Assyrian relatives beyond my aunts and uncles. So it's cool to be able to connect back with the worldwide group of Assyrians and stuff. It's been fun, like chatting with some people that are still in Iraq and Iran and all that. And I really appreciate the opportunity to connect in that way. And then, so hallelujah. No, thanks for joining in and listening.
Yeah. Have you had a lot more Assyrians kind of, like add you on Facebook and
I've
Instagram and things like that and be like, hey, you're Assyrian, I'm Assyrian.
Yeah. I didn't have a lot initially because, like I said, I always wanted to meet Assyrians, but I grew up in a farm in Idaho and stuff. And then not long ago, my sister-in-law rear-ended a guy, and he happened to be Assyrian, and somehow that came up in the conversation. And
here in Virginia?
It was in New York.
Oh, okay.
He took her to church there, and then and then I went up there, and I was like, oh, you met an Assyrian, and so I met him, and then he took me to the church, and it was really fascinating because the people there knew my grandpa's brother's son, so my grandpa's nephew was the Archbishop of Urmia and Salamas for the Catholic Church in in Iran. And so they, in the 60s, he died
Mm-hmm.
a long time ago, but a lot of the people in that church knew him and had spent time with him. And I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, oh, wow. They knew about my family back in Iran and that I had just heard about. And so that was cool. And I appreciate you guys listening. And yeah.
Well, thank you
being
for having
connected.
us, Jordan.
Yeah,
It's been
yeah.
a pleasure.
Yeah.
I had a blast watching the show, and
Good, yeah.
people can view it it's on the History Channel, it's on
Yeah.
Amazon Prime, it's
Right.
pretty much everywhere if
YouTube,
anybody
all
wants
that
to.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so watch it and enjoy. Pretty fun. Good TV. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us out by sharing it on social media or by telling somebody about it. We appreciate all of your support for the Assyrian Podcast. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week.